stand with Popular Front of India. Popular Front of India has, in my opinion, been a pioneering organization working in the field of human rights throughout the country, focusing largely on sections of minorities who usually do not get involved in issues of larger human rights value. And therefore, Human Rights Defenders Alert India sees PFI as a human rights defender itself. Human rights defenders are not only individuals, they are also organizations and they are also associations of peoples across countries who work for the protection and promotion of human rights. And therefore, in my humble opinion, PFI is a human rights defender within the parameters of the UN Declaration on Human Rights Defenders of 1998. I have had personally the opportunity of working very closely with them in the city from which I hail and where I function, which is Madurai, where we have jointly been able to express solidarity on issues that relate to the rights of minorities, whether it was attacks on churches, whether it was attacks on individuals coming from communal forces inside the city. I had the pleasure also of working with them in building a strong alliance of people from all walks of life, not necessarily minorities, from different political persuasions, always to ensure that the rights of the minorities, whether they were Muslims or whether they were Christians, and whether they were vulnerable sections of society coming from the Dalit sections or slum dwellers, etc., were always protected. Last year was a unique year where for months together we had the privilege of continuous protests, not only in my city but in the neighboring towns, where we jointly worked on issues of opposing the Citizenship Amendment Act, just as many chose to challenge it in the courts of law in our country. It has now been brought to our notice that across the country, this organization is under attack. The attack coming not from the ministries, the attack coming not from any of the other functionaries of the government, but from the Enforcement Directorate. And that speaks about the quality of the attack. The attack by the Enforcement Directorate is an attack that has been engineered by the Ministry of Home Affairs of this country only to attempt to tarnish the image of a people-supported organization called PFI, which functions across the country in different states. And therefore, as a human rights defender and as somebody responsible for Human Rights Defenders Alert India, I wish to equate this usage of the Enforcement Directorate on par with the usage against Greenpeace India, against Amnesty India in Bangalore and elsewhere in this country. Earlier, it used to be the habit of using the FCRA, the Ministry of Home Affairs FCRA unit, against individuals in order to be able to try to create blemish about their activities. But if you handle organizations like PFI, which do not receive foreign funds and who are not registered under the FCRA, then the only alternative that is left to the ministry is to use its other arm, which is the Enforcement Directorate, hoping that you will be able to tarnish the image that has been created at times of very, very deep crisis by this organization, with grassroots support of large numbers of people who have participated in struggles, peaceful struggles across the country. And therefore, for me, the attack on PFI recently across the country, in its various offices, through their usual ED procedures, are procedures which are not sustainable in law, which will not be able to be won in any court of law, but which is attempted to create an impression that this is an organization that is engaged in finding, raising and funding resources for so-called anti-national activities that the government wishes to define. I wish to state that this is not done. This has never succeeded. All your attempts of using either the Enforcement Directorate or the Foreign Contribution Unit of the Ministry of Home Affairs have so far never succeeded. And I wish to reiterate from the long association with PFI that PFI should not be seen as somebody playing with funds, but these are organizations playing with people. They play with people, they play with the Constitution, they promote the Constitution, they uphold the preamble to the Constitution. And if holding the Constitution and upholding the preamble to the Constitution is what is opposed, I am sure PFI will do it better, stronger, and in a more organized way in this country. These are the only ways for us to be able to uphold the Constitution and the conspiracy that this Constitution wishes to enter into, to see that the poorest of the poor in this country are made powerful through what are known as fundamental rights in this Constitution. PFI has been doing that in its own way, and instead of standing in solidarity with them, the opposite is being done. The more the Enforcement Directorate is used against organizations like PFI, the stronger will PFI emerge in this country. That is my hope. That has always been history, and that will continue to be a new history that PFI will write. Human Rights Defenders Alert wishes to stand in solidarity. Human Rights Defenders Alert wishes to also bring this to the attention of the National Human Rights Commission of India, which is supposed to ensure that every organization has a right to raise resources. And right to raise resources is part of our right to association. Cannot be an association that functions without being able to raise resources. And if it is not able to raise resources, such an organization will not be an effective human rights organization. It is our bounden duty not only to raise it within the National Human Rights Commission, but to also ensure that we are able to take it before the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders and UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Association and Assembly. And I wish Popular Front of India all success in this very difficult times that they are facing across the country. Solidarity is what every human rights organization, every people's organization needs to provide, and we will definitely do it with generosity and to the best of our capacities. Let me therefore end with what is now being popularized as a hashtag across the country, and wish and state that I stand with Popular Front of India. It is not only that I stand, it is that Human Rights Defenders Alert India stands, and all human rights defenders across the country stand in solidarity with Popular Front of India. Thank you.